What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. And it is your betting show this week that I'm back with today. No UFC this weekend, but we have a very good double act of one championship fights. I will have breakdowns. I think they'll already be out actually at this stage. One of them is definitely out already anyway, but both of them should be out at this stage. There's two cards joined by Ian O'Neill. And we went through those cards a lot, and I have actually lots of thoughts on them. So it's luckily I had the previews for those when there's no UFC. So I have watched a lot of tape on a lot of these fighters I'm going to be talking about here, and I have 5 bets for you. Not really a flyer this week because there isn't loads of odds up for these yet, so it's just kind of the top 5 bets of the week from the 5 fights that are showing at the moment on the betting odds. But I'm sure as the week goes on, maybe there'll be more betting odds up and stuff as well. But I think it's a very interesting couple of cards from one championship. There are some fights between people maybe that a lot of folks, if they haven't watched a lot of one championship, wouldn't know that well, but there's some really, really good fights, like the Tan Lee versus the Tan Kai fight. That's a really, really high level fight, and the type of fight, it reminds me of something like, let's say, Matt Brown versus a Robbie Lawler or something like that in terms of excitement. That's what that sort of fight is. Now, in terms of name and all of that, no, but in terms of excitement, I think it's right up there with a fight like that, So some very interesting stuff here. Anyway, please bet responsibly. If you are betting this weekend, don't go crazy with it. Last week, I think we had a couple of bets come in last week. Brendan Loughnane with almost plus 200, so that was a very, very good bet. And we were unlucky with a couple as well. My guy Raji Kuda didn't win, and Sofian Bakaju didn't win, but hopefully we'll get a couple back this week. I'm going with a few plus money bets this week, so we will see how they work out. And let's get to the first one. And the first one is on the biggest fight of the weekend, and that is Adriano Moraes versus my guy up here. Look at him behind me there. Can you see it? Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson. And people might say, okay, Shawnee, you're biased. Look at these lads up on the wall behind you. Like, you shouldn't have these lads behind you. My first bet of the week is Adriano Moraes to win at plus 110. I'm going for Moraes to win. Now, anyone who knows me and has listened to any of my podcasts and has listened to me talk about the history of mixed martial arts, or the history of the greatest of all time, and anyone who can look at that sign there behind me knows I am a massive admirer of Demetrious Johnson. I cover the sport down the middle, absolutely, but covering the sport down the middle is about telling the truth and about giving your opinion on the truth, or saying it how, as my friend said to me once, I said I call it as it is, and he goes, no, you call it as you see it. And that's exactly true, and that's how everyone should do it in the media. And how I see it is that Demetrious Johnson's the greatest fighter to ever live. Pound for pound, the best ever. And I stand by that. I think he is the greatest fighter of all time. But pound for pound means something. It means if all is equal. And in this fight with Adriano Moraes, I don't think all is equal. And I'm not. That's not me saying, Adriano Moraes is just bigger, so he's going to win. Adriano Moraes is bigger, but he also has brilliant skill. And one thing I think that sets Moraes apart from all the other guys that Demetrious Johnson fights is that he has the speed as well as the size. Even back in the day when Demetrious lost to Dominic Cruz, it was a size thing. Dominic was always fast, but he's not at the level of Demetrious Johnson in terms of speed. And maybe Moraes isn't either, but I think at this stage of both of their careers, I think he is. He is rapid. He is so fast. And if you go back, and he won the first time, and he's the underdog coming in here. Now, we know that happens sometimes, but this isn't the Juliana Pena, Amanda Nunes situation. This isn't even like a Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, where I saw the betting odds came out the other day, and Usman was a massive favourite for a rematch. Like, Usman was winning that fight, and he got hit with one big shot late, not a lucky shot or anything like that, well set up. But if they fought again, and it was under the same circumstances, you could see why Usman is favourite. Things change after fights, but you could see with Moraes and Demetrious, Moraes was kind of winning that fight. Moraes was, at the very least, it was even. you know? And he came in and he landed a big shot and he finished him with the grounded knee, which is obviously legal in one championship, which is something that, okay, I remember, and I've talked about this and other people have talked about it too, Demetrious isn't used to that, and he spent his whole life training for one skill set and he trains enough. Like, I'm sure Moraes, who was a bit more experienced, but he wasn't training all his life for down knees either, and that was something he had to learn, so we need to factor that in as well. But he did finish him with that. And I just think he can do it again. Like, he's big and fast. And remember, this is kind of a bantamweight fight as well. And one championship have, you know, their weight cutting rules and stuff like that. I'm actually not sure how that works, to be honest. But as you know, I think we here in Sherdog call it bantamweight fights, and I think, you know, they're basically bantamweight fights. So I think like I've always said, Demetrious is a 115 or nearly. You know, he's very, very small. Now he's a bit bigger probably the older he gets, but he's not big. He wasn't big for 125, and then at 135 as well. Even though like the weight cutting is not apparently not a thing one championship. As I said, I don't really know how it works, but I think that's an advantage for him, because like the fact that he can kind of go, you know, Moraes at that speed while not having to suck weight to have a big size advantage to get down to take advantage of it against something someone like Demetrious is absolutely huge, because then he can throw those kicks to the body against the smaller man and it'll pay off rather than robbing the juice from himself, if you get me, or robbing the gas from himself. He also is a guy who is very, very confident. Like in that first fight, he pulled guard against Demetrious. He was really strong on the floor, gone on top, you know, and then caught him with strikes. Now, Demetrious, I wouldn't say Demetrious is slower or gone around. He's not exactly what he used to be, but how could you when you were the greatest fighter of all time? The only way is down. He hasn't gone down that much in his last fight. You know, the mixed rules fights, he looked very, very good. But I just think in this one, to kind of wrap it up here, and the reason I'm going for Moraes is that if Demetrious, I don't think has a massive speed advantage. I don't think he's a massive skill advantage. I don't think he's an advantage on the clinch. I don't think he's an advantage on the ground. Even in the wrestling, I don't think he has a massive advantage. Like sometimes you could say someone like Demetrious especially, he is so good, maybe be able to change things up and do things a little bit differently, just take him down, get on top and win there. Moraes loves to have the fight on the ground, loves for you to be on top of him. He'll go for a heel hook all day or leg lock or whatever it might be. So I think all those things will play into a factor. It's a tough matchup. If Demetrious wins this fight, I think it's one of the best wins in his career because of the stage it's at and because of the opponent as well. And I don't think people really understand that, because it's, Demetrious is fighting nobody's on one championship. You know, that's not the case at all. I mentioned on the previous show, but my guy Guillermo Cruz, Grabaca Hitman as well, were all about like not that shocked that Moraes won the first fight, because this guy's a good fighter, you know. This guy's a good fighter. Just because people maybe haven't analysed him like they would have Muhammad Mokaev coming through or someone like that, doesn't mean that those guys aren't as good as each other, aren't both great fighters. So I have watched that first fight back again. It's a very tough fight for Demetrious. It is a really tough fight for Demetrious, and I also think Moraes has in the words of Brock Lesnar, he's a horseshoe up his ass, and he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and I think he'll want to prove it, because a lot of people, as I said earlier, a lot of people were saying, Demetrious, he was unlucky, the rule set got to him and all, and Moraes probably listened to that and go, what are you talking about? I went out and I beat this guy. I beat him fair and square, knocked him out, and everyone's taken away from me, you know? And I'm sure he'll want to do it again and kind of shove it down people's throats. So I'm going for him. I'm going for Adriano straight up at plus 110. Plus 110 there. The next one I'm going for Lynn Heqin. I really like her. I think she is a very, very good fighter. I watched a few of her fights. She's fighting Itsuki Hirata, and she's plus 200. So a very, very good price here. If you want a flyer for the week, this is kind of my flyer, plus 200. A long fighter, lovely jab, lovely low kicks. She stands in the pocket and she counters, which is very unusual for a tall fighter like that. Good takedown defense as well, and good takedowns of her own. Hirata did on the other side. I would say she's a good, strong, straight up fundamental fighter, and strong is the word for her. She looks for takedowns all the time. So I'm kind of thinking Heqin has very good takedown defense. And apologies here again if I'm butchering names or anything, but she's very good takedown defense. So I'm wondering if Hirata can't get that takedown, what's it going to look like on the feet. I think she throws too many straight kicks to the body down the middle. She gets them caught an awful lot and putting her back. She likes kind of low double legs and ankle picks and stuff like that. I think she's a type of fighter, Hirata, that in 3 or 4 years she's going to be very good. She needs, and you know, you never know with fighters. She could come out and look very good in this fight, and I could be talking, you know, I'd be right, but just a few years early, maybe. She just needs to add a little bit more variation, needs to stop doing certain things and do other things. Hirata, a very, very good fighter, but I think Heqin is actually like that step ahead of her. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I think, look, the big difference here, I would say, is physicality. I think Hirata is a better physical fighter, but I think from a skills point of view, I like Heqin, and I think plus 200. I think that's a big price for someone with such good skills. Like, I can see Hirata coming in, going for a double leg takedown, getting her head pushed down, and then she's in a position where she has to strike with Heqin. She come forward, land her 1-2s, and get countered, because that's what Heqin is really good at. Very good jab and good counters in the pocket. And as I said, she fights in that pocket and uses her length in there. And I think that's actually kind of a nightmare for a fighter like Hirata who comes forward with your 1-2 punches. She's expecting to kind of win that range because of her fundamentals. But I think the fundamental countering of Heqin is actually like a bad answer for Hirata, not the answer she will want. So it's a very interesting fight. It's a very, very interesting fight. Now, if Hirata goes in there and gets takedowns early, I think she'll win. But if it stays on the feet, I really fancy Hirata or Heqin to win this fight. I really, really do. I think she's very, very good. I'm a big fan of her game. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because her jab is so good, and I love a jab. I absolutely love a jab. So, yeah, I'm going for her. I'm going for her to win this fight, and she is plus 200. The next one I'm going for is not a plus bet. In fact, it's a pretty big minus bet. It's minus 333, and it's Buchecha Marcus Almeida. And this is one, you know, if you're betting on, I don't know if the NFL is on this weekend, maybe it is. I think the baseball playoffs coming up, I think there. We have the Premier League, Man United getting great wins and all. If you're betting on a few of them, throw this in, you know. Buchecha, I think this is a good price, to be honest, at minus 333. He's fighting Kirill Grishenko, who is a grappler, basically. And if you don't know who Buchecha is, head on over to my guy Luke Thomas and he'll tell you very quickly he's his favourite grappler of all time. This absolute juggernaut, athletic heavyweight who has taken very well to mixed martial arts. I believe he's 3-0 if I'm not mistaken right now. He showed a bit of striking last time, threw a few leg kicks, but quickly turned it into a blast double. I think he was kind of like, do you know what? I don't need to do this. But his BJJ is unbelievably shoulder pressure. He has good ground and pound too, so it's not just the jiu-jitsu guy. Sometimes you see, say, like Mackenzie Dern in her early years, it was just, if she didn't get the submission, there was nothing else there. And now Buchecha hasn't really faced great competition so far. But at the same time, I think he's very, very good and look very good. Now, Grishenko, I think, is probably the best guy he's faced. As I said, a grappler, but a very good grappler. The problem is a very good grappler against the best grappler is the issue. He does move well on the feet though, and he's long, and he has a good right hand, so he does pose a few problems, and I think the betting line kind of reflects that. Like Buchecha against guys at this level should probably be minus 600, minus 700, but the fact he's only minus 333, it kind of reflects how good Grishenko is, and I think that's a fair line and a fair price, but I do believe in Buchecha Marcus Almeida, and I think he will win here at minus 333. The next bet I'm going for then is Christian Lee, and he is fighting Rae Young. Ok won the first fight, but I personally think Christian Lee won that fight. And I know I did a preview with Ian as well, and Ian believes the same thing. And I do think at minus 161, it's one of those fights where I think Christian Lee, and we have a big breakdown of this on the preview, but I think he has maybe easier ways to change up than Ok. Like, Ok did about as well in that first fight as I think he can do against Lee. Now he ended up winning, so who's for me to say? But I think the wrestle boxing of Christian Lee was really good in that first fight, in that he wrestled well and he hit him with big shots, you know. Got a massive shot late as well. And we know how One Championship scored the fight as a whole, and when you land a big shot like that at the end, it's going to score a lot. Actually, I don't really know how it works, to be honest. You know, I'm so indoctrinated to the Western system, if you want to put it that way, and the American rule set, that I actually find it very hard. Like, is it scored the exact same way as one round is, you know, if there was a fight in America or Ireland or England or somewhere? But it's just like, if in this case, a 25-minute round. That must be hard to remember what happened, like, you know, 34 minutes ago, or not 34, 29 minutes ago, with the breaks in between and all, and to score it all. That must be very hard. That must be really, really hard to do. But anyway, that's beside the point. Look, as I said, wrestle boxer Christian Lee got an early takedown in the first fight, and he's smart with his takedowns as well. They allow him to throw big shots, because if he fakes, someone comes up over top. You know, we all saw Khabib versus McGregor in the second round of that one, wasn't it? Yeah. It also, throwing those big shots kind of gets him into the clinch and then lets him go for takedowns in that area. He's good submissions, good on the ground. Did look a little bit tired in that first fight, and that would be the one issue here, I think, again. But if he fights in a more dominant way here, I don't think he will get as tired. Ok did a good job of kind of keeping him off him, stopping him from taking him down against the cage, and he'll need to do that again. But I also think he needs to make him pay more on the feet, and that was the thing in the first fight, that why I thought Christian Lee won. I thought he made Ok pay more on the feet, whereas Ok is kind of the better striker. He's loose, throws these flying knees, a very, very good jab when he throws it, doesn't throw it enough, buys his time to land shots. And if you're going by the system in, you know, this part of the world, you'll probably say biding his time is smart because he'll win rounds with it. But this fight is scored in the hole, so it's a little bit different. And I'm contradicting myself because it worked the first time. But having said that, I just think, I think Ok needs more of the big moments, but fought in a way in the first fight which allowed him to get big moments, but Lee got more big moments, if you want to put it that way. So I think if Lee can kind of cut down the big moments, even though he had more of them in the first fight, I think it'll benefit him. So I could see a lot more wrestling here, a lot more top control for Christian Lee, as well as a few big right hands over the top, as well as a better defensive display for him, and I think he'll win the fight that way. That's how I think he'll win the fight. Minus 161. Look, if you fancy Rae Young to win it again, he is plus 123. So that's, you know, a very even fight, a very good fight the first time, a very, very good fight the first time, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm going for Christian Lee at minus 161. The last bet of the week I am going for is Mauro Cerilli, plus 163. He's fighting Amir Aliakbari, who, you know, I watched him in a fight from a couple of years ago, and he looked great. He looked athletic and fit and everything. And I don't know, I forgot to go back and look, but maybe he was fighting at light heavyweight and came up to heavyweight. But he seems to put on a lot of size. And he's very strong, and he's a good wrestler, and he's strong on top. But I think his striking was always a bit slow, and I think him putting on size has made him a bit slower. Whereas Cerilli on the feet, he's not, you know, Silgania by any means in terms of speed, but he is fast for a heavyweight, and he's not the biggest heavyweight in terms of height, but he's a big unit, and power. Power is what he does. He circles really well and hits hard, bites his time, as I said again, and lands with lovely power shots. He needs to take his time though. In the fight with I always forget his name. Why do I always forget his name? Brandon. I don't know. I always forget his name. Why? Brandon Vera. I remembered it. Finally, I watched that fight after I forgot his name last time, and I again forgot his name. But Brandon Vera, he kind of rushed in and got knocked out, and that's not the way to do it, I don't think. In any heavyweight fight, but maybe against Aliakbari, it's, considering he's a bit slower, maybe it is. Now, that rushing in might get you taken down, so maybe don't do that anyway. But I think if he circles well, stays away from the takedown, and lands the big shots when he needs to land the big shots, I think this fight is therefore winning for him. And at plus 163, I think that's a great line. I think that's a very, very good line for him. And I think that's the way he wins the fight. Really. So, yeah, I think that's a solid bet here. A heavyweight fight, a couple of heavyweight fights there, and I think it's the way to go for Cerilli. I'll have a quick look through the One Championship betting again. So Moraes and Demetrious. Moraes, as I said, plus 110. Demetrious minus 150. It's an interesting price. Obviously, very interesting price. Hirata is minus 275 plus 200 for Heqin. Grishenko plus 225 minus 333 for Almeida. Aliakbari is minus 225 and plus 163 for Cerilli. And the one fight I didn't give a bet on as well that the betting is up for is Lapicus is minus 333 plus 225 for Kadistan. You know, that's another interesting fight. Kadistan, you know, fighting out of Sweden, lots of movement, lovely jab, nice high kicks, attacks with pressure, nice combos as well. And Lapicus he's really strong. He just threw Christian Lee around like a baby in the first round of their fight. Really good BJJ. Maybe a little bit too confident, I would say, but a juggernaut of a fighter as well. Some nice straight shots, and I think he is rightly the favourite at minus 333, but I wouldn't turn you away from betting on Kadistan, to be honest. There's a few more bets here. I'll just I procured them from some odd website. They're not up on Best Fight Odds or anything like that, but I'll give you a quick shout out here. I have them on my phone. So the Subba Khan fight, Khan is the favourite there at minus 303 plus 222 for Subba. And the fight I really love, the Lee and Tang fight, minus 294 for Lee, Tang plus 197. Now that plus 197, that's a pretty good price. Kai Tang I like him a lot, and I'm picking him to win that fight. So plus 197, that's a pretty good bet. Now I didn't give it as one of my bets because I don't know really why I didn't give it. I think it's one of those fights where either guy could get knocked out, and if I don't have like a clear call on it, I kind of like to avoid it sometimes, and that is one of those ones I don't have a clear call on it. But if there was a fight of the weekend betting, that'd be the one I'd be betting on. Kai Tang against Tang Lee. What a fight that is. That is an absolute barn burner of a fight. I'm looking forward to that. Let's see if I have a couple more of them here. I think that's all of them now. That's all the betting. So very, very interesting. Obviously, when the UFC is off, when there's no Bellator, when there's no PFL, it's maybe harder to pick out bets, but when we have One Championship and we have the first Amazon Prime card over in the US and in Canada, and they put on good fights like this, it's a little bit easier. And you know, myself and Ian, I implore you, if you haven't listened to those previews, they're really good previews. Ian watched a lot of fights for that. I watched a lot of fights as well, and I feel like we got a good feel for them. It did kind of turn into a bit of a promotion piece, because I think we called it down the middle, and they are very good fights. To be fair, they are very, very good fights. So if you're stuck for mixed martial arts this weekend, you know, One Championship is the place to go. If you've Amazon Prime, they're there. I believe here in Ireland, the first card is on YouTube as well. So handy out, not too bad. So I'll run you through my bets before we go again. Moraes straight up plus 110, Heqin plus 200. Minus 333 for Marcus Buchecha Almeida. Christian Lee minus 161. And the former Cage Warriors heavyweight champion Mauro Cerilli from Italia is at plus 163. Alright everyone, I am Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com. Best of luck with the betting this weekend, and I'll see you all next time.